So what I would say to sum up what I believe neutrality is that from my studies and your studies and our studies together, Trev, and the rest of our Limitless Minds crew of co-founders, is that what we've understood and come to the realization is that positivity definitely works. But what we know works 100% of the time is negativity. And what we want to be is the greatest leaders in the world, the greatest players, greatest business people, the whatever they may be. From our studies, it shows that neutrality is the way to be a continual, consistent champion in what you do, whatever that field
Right.
is. And that's even at home. You know, there's going to be things that and highs and lows in life that we're all going to face, whether if it's your dad passing
Going to
away.
the going to the
Yeah.
truth. And I think your definition in the midst of chaos, go to the truth. And I think right now that's the key. How do we find the truth? Well, in sports, the truth is finite. We're winning, we're losing. They got the ball, we got the ball. This is how much. There's 11 minutes left. There's 8 minutes left. It's a 2-score game. Uh, and I think right now, I know for me, I'm only getting my information. I get my information from the LA Clippers. I get it in the morning, and I make sure I understand the things that are important. And then I need to know what the facts are. Small groups, less than 10 people. Wash my hands. And I'm in a situation where I have to be. You know my situation. So I've got to navigate it and be really smart with how I handle it. But I'm really monitoring the negative consumption. And I think what people, if how many negative people are allowed to spend time with you, Russell, and take preeminent roles in your life? Yeah, whether they great people, but I mean, like, can people who are negative talk negative, watch negative things, say negative things? I don't care who they are. Can they live in your life for long?
Yeah, for me, no.
No,
Just be straight on. No. The answer is no.
no.
And there's no other option. I think the reality is that, when you're in constant, focus mode of trying to help your family, trying to help your team win, trying to help, others, and just trying to serve ultimately, because it's easy for us to be negative. It's easy for us
Easy,
naturally. It's
no
easy for us
question.
to be negative, and this is the circumstances, and this is where I am, and this is where da da da. But it's a lot harder, but it's a lot better for us to be neutral. And I think the balance of the two is really critical, of being able to do that and understand. There's always something worth fighting for. And I would say this: we constantly talk about this idea of being neutral, but I also believe there's this other element of neutrality that is a direct correlation to life and how you live your life. And I would say neutrality is number one, because that's the mindset. That's what we have to have. That's what we talk about with Limitless Minds. But the other part of this is gratitude. Because I think that to be truly neutral, you have to have consistent gratitude in the high moments and in the low, in the peaks and the valleys. So gratitude connected to neutrality. Neutral is number one thing. But right after that is this idea of gratitude. And how do you bring both of them, even in the midst of the storm, when your dad's on his deathbed, like he was when I was, young, about to go to the pros and everything else. Losing him was a heavy thing in my life. That was one of the hardest things I've ever had to get through. And I could have been super negative. I could have been in the dumps. I could have been, F the world and this and that and, F you God and this. But the reality is the gratitude that was what was able, the neutral thought and the gratitude, those combined was what was able to catapult me into my future and catapult me into my destination, because I firmly believe that these two together have to collide in a beautiful way to truly be neutral. And so, I'm constantly trying to find and it's not necessarily being super positive, because the reality is the reality sometimes, right? And it's a tough reality, but being grateful and having gratitude, an attitude of gratitude is really critical, because then what it does is it recenters my thoughts. It
Yeah.
balances me out and say, God, thank you for this moment. Thank you for this tough time, because there's something on the other side. There's something on the other side of this. There's a famous scripture, I think it's Mark 5:1. And right before that, it's the disciples, and they're on the water, and they're in a storm. They're in the midst of this storm, and they're battling. And in the next chapter, Mark 5:1, it says, and then Jesus got them to the other side. They were on the other side, just like that, in a blinking of an eye. And so let's get to the other side. And I
Yeah, I
think that's
love
really
that.
critical. And I think being neutral, having a heart of gratitude, having a heart of belief, but that neutral balance that you have to go through to take that hit and to step up and make the next throw, the next play, or to go to the next doctor appointment, or to go to the next moment in life, or to go to the next job and have a new attitude of gratitude with a neutral mindset and how I'm going to do that. And even your own body language. Body language is a key
Right.
predictor of who you're going to be. And so those things have to exist, but it all starts with being neutral. And then here comes gratitude. Then here comes your body language. And then here comes your words. And then here comes the next thing. So being neutral is a key centerpiece of it all.
And one of the last questions I want to ask before I take a few questions that we're getting live from the audience. Some people know, other people don't know. But for 9 years, every Tuesday, you go to Seattle Children's Hospital. And what have you learned? So you talk about neutral and gratitude. And what have you seen in the common denominators? Because you can, look, positive thinking, neutral thinking, they don't guarantee you success. But negative thinking guarantees that you will weaponize yourself against yourself. And as a team, if you're losing at half and you live in that moment, you're probably going to lose the game. And if you're losing at half and you change your behavior, you can win it. That what the audience needs to understand, neutral is the past is real. When your dad passed away, he was gone. He wasn't gone from your mind, and he got to see you get drafted by Colorado, but you didn't pretend it didn't happen, but you also were grateful for the life that you'd had, and you also knew that tomorrow could be better and different, and you were going to be a father somewhere down the road. And so let me just go to that question. What have you learned, Russ, in all your years being in that environment, Seattle Children's, in some very scary situations for people facing situations far more dire than what we are facing right now, truthfully? You've been with people and the next day they're not there. And you've also been with people who they were told they weren't going to be there, and 10 years later, they're still here. What have you learned from them, and how does that relate to neutral and gratitude?
Well, I think it's a great question. And it's kind of exactly what we were just talking about in a way, in the sense that, from my observations, I've met over thousands and thousands of kids at Seattle Children's Hospital, and hospitals all over the country, but really in particular Seattle Children's. And every time I go there on Tuesday, I'm praying for a miracle. That each room that I walk into, that something great's going to happen. There's going to be a change in the atmosphere. And so, if all my observations and all the kids that I've met, and all the families that I've met, and all the friends and the boyfriends and the girlfriends, and the people coming in and out, and even the nurses and the doctors, is that the rooms, right, that have the most clear definition of what their truth is, right, of where they really are, okay, but also matching that truth and that neutral mindset with this idea of, you know what, I'm going to find joy in today. I'm going to find joy in my storm. I'm going to find joy in the heartache of what I just heard or what I just went through, right? The kids, the young kids, and the families, the moms and the dads and the cousins and the grandmas and the grandfathers and the boyfriends and the girlfriends, right? The ones that they collectively have that thought, okay, and that belief and that just knowing that, you know what, we're going to find joy in the day. Those are the ones that overcome most of the time. Those are the ones. And I would say, out of all the kids that I've met, the ones that have overcome, without having numbers written down, is that I would say that the ones who overcome, or the ones that, find a way, or typically have that mentality, I would probably say 75 to 80% of the time, is finding the joy in the moment, of that day, because they don't know when the next one, if it's
Right.
going to even happen.
And that's
So
the
I think
essence. The essence of
that's really
neutral
critical. Yeah,
is
it
give each day a history and a life of its own. Give the last 6 minutes of the fourth quarter in the NFC Championship game its own life, because nobody's lived it yet.
Yeah.
And as difficult as the last few weeks have been, we don't know what happens next. As difficult as things were 6 weeks ago in China, how do you explain less than 9 diagnoses a day? Nobody knows. We're eventually going to have a vaccination. We're eventually going to get through it. And the questions are, but that doesn't mean that right now isn't hard and people aren't losing their jobs. And the million meals that you and Sierra donated are going to need millions more. And I want to thank you and Sierra for little things to help people live the day, or to see you and Steph Curry and Torrin Wells and different types of things. Like I would much rather watch Instagram Live than CNN. And so, but we need people to pull us in, and we need reminders, and that's a big, that's a big challenge. And I've never been at your house and ever seen the TV on. And you're the one that turned me on to Christian music, which I grew up, even being raised Catholic, making fun of. And my ex-wife may have said, put that stuff on your headphones, and she wouldn't say stuff, but that helped change my life. And through some difficult moments that that I've been through, that music prepared me psychologically for it. And you've created the conditions in your life to help manage adversity by far before this happened, watching strategic things, listening to strategic things, you and Sierra singing things, dancing. I just think, as someone who's observed it, it's incredible because you were prepared for this in a way that other people could have equally had the opportunity to be prepared to.
Well, first of all, I think that I'm not that boring. I throw on a flick every once in a while.
No. I mean, you have Netflix, all the other stuff. No. But you don't have. I've never been there and seen cable news on ever.
No, I mean,
truthfully,
I think that. Yeah, no, we have our shows we watch. We love a good
you definitely
Game of Thrones
do.
episode. A good Game of Thrones episode is like my favorite. But listen, I think that we only have so much time in a day to control our thoughts, control our language, control the people that we're around. And that's really critical. And in the midst of the storm right now, and I think about families, what I'm really thinking about right now in my heart is families, right? As a collective group, is that this is actually, even though all this stuff is going on, and we're worried, and we have pain, we have real realities and real things to have to take care of, and sickness is still real, and bills are still real. And I've been on the other side of this too, in the sense that I grew up bankrupt as a young kid. We didn't have much, so I've lived on both extremes. But I will tell you that the one consistent thing in my life has been God at the center of it all, and having the right mindset to be there. And I think that what's really critical for me, and I think that even in our own household, is finding that quality time together. And the magic in this is, like I said, is finding the joy, like those young kids in Seattle Children's when they have cancer and they're only 4 years old or 8 years old or 12 years old or whatever they're going through, right? And is that they find magic in a storm, right? They find the beauty of it all, and they hope to get to the other side. And I think that in the midst of what we're going through is finding the joy. There's real realities, there's real truths, but making sure your mind and your eyes and your words and your language and the way that you love is fixed on the things that are good and not of bad. And I think that's really, really critical in the midst of this, fixing your eyes on the good. And I think the last thing I would say to all of that is I think we all have to find new creative ways to love, new creative, even as a business, even as companies and teams, but also more importantly, families, new creative ways of how to love, of how to spend time together, of how to run business and make things still work. I think that our realities of today's society, especially in 2020 and 2019s in the world and the 2000s, is that we're so used and obsessed to technology. And despite the fact that we're here on this, talking, and social distancing, we'd probably be hanging out doing a podcast together or something fun. Limitless Minds podcast right now, but now we got to do a webinar from this far away. But there's also joy in the connection and the reconnection of things that we weren't able to do and we weren't thinking about doing before, because now it's a critical time for everybody to join in together and to find the ones that we really care about and the people that we really love, and saying, you know what, this is what's really important. my family, my daughter, my son, my best friend, whatever those things are, and finding joy in those moments too. And so, listen, the realities are the realities. It's a tough time. It's a tough time for a lot of people and for everyone. And I think that we have to find the joy in it all and remain neutral and have a clear mindset.
Yeah. And I would just add, it's so incredible, Russell, just and people who will get more exposed to what we teach at Limitless Minds. If they want to win, obviously not everybody wants to win, but if they want to win, they'll find more about what we're doing. But just listening to your language, like if you were working for the news, you would be referring to this as a healthcare challenge, not a healthcare crisis. And a challenge in our life is scary and it's tough and it physiologically challenges us, man. But a crisis is something that scares us, and so much is how we refer to what we're going through. So I want to go to some questions, Russ. First question was for me from Jason. How has Russell Wilson grown from day one till today, in my opinion? So I'll go back to the Red Robin in Bellevue, in Bell Square, after Russell had trained for the draft, had a great pro day. Wink had just flown back. You were getting ready for OTAs, maybe third or fourth, or pre-OTA practices, and the confidence has always been there. I said, "Hey, how is everything going? What do you think of Matt Flynn?" They gave him $26 million. And you went through why you were going to become the Seattle Seahawks starting quarterback, and it had nothing to do with anybody else, but it was based upon what you were going to do. And what I say about Russell is his behavior has always been way ahead of his success, and that he's been doing all the things you have to do before he was winning any of the awards. And what people don't know is, as much as you've developed the routine in your behavior in football, you're doing that in the business and the philanthropic world right now. Even though people don't know that much about it, you're seeding so many things based upon what you're doing, the decisions you're making, and how you're using your time. Where there's nothing wrong with the amount of players that play video games and do different types of things. There's nothing wrong with that, but you're living a different lifestyle. So my answer to that is he was already behaving like the well-rounded superstar, because that's the only word you can use, 10 years ago. And when I was getting my ass kicked by him, excuse my language, with Florida State University and a much better team with much better players, he was doing the same thing when Jimbo Fisher and Mark Stoops were fighting. So, Russ, a question directly for you from John. I'm dealing with perpetually negative and hyper-focused family members that are obsessing over the current health crisis. I haven't seemed to get any breakthrough with them. How do you deal with teammates that are really negative? And what's the best advice, Russ, for me during this time?
Well, John, I think first of all, we are in the midst of a storm. But like I was saying earlier, we have to focus on trying to get to the other side. And despite the fact that the boat may be rocking a little bit, and we got a bunch of people in it, true captains of a boat are going to remain calm, remain neutral. And so, if you're the captain of your family or your group or your organization or your business, you have to remain neutral, because if you're not, everybody's going to freak out. And so I think that's key for you and your language, and giving people a vision of the next day. Don't think about the whole process, because we don't know. We don't know how long this is going to be. And that's just the reality. If I could tell you that this is going to be over in a week, I think everybody would be okay. But we don't know that. And so we have to remain calm in the midst of it, have to remain prepared. And I think ultimately try to just continue to be yourself, man, and just speak great language. Be you. Be a leader. Speak life into people. Don't let other people's negativity draw you down and anchor you down, but let it catapult you, and let it be used for good. So that's what I would say. And for me, with me and teams and teammates and stuff like that, there's only one way. We're only going to do this one way, and we're going to do it the right way. And we're going to speak the right way. We're going to lead the right way, and ultimately we're going to win the right way. And we're going to do everything we can to leave it all in line. And that's the only option. If you're going to be in the huddle with me, that's it. There ain't no other option. So that's just how I think.
Lead from the front is basically what you're saying, Russ. Lead from the
Yeah,
front.
I think I think John, if you're going to lead people, I think you got to lead. I think you got to lead from the front, but I think you got to lead with them. You got to kind of guide them
Bring
a
them
little
together
bit and show them, hey, listen, we're gonna. I always love the image of circles, and if we can really have a great team, it's a circle. It's everybody's in here together. It's not necessarily you have your leaders and you have your captains but it should feel like we're on a circle because that's when we're really tight, right? And we can't be unlinked because we're always tight and connected. So I think that's super important.
Last thing I would say before we turn it back over to DJ, Russ, for the people that are getting familiar with Limitless Minds, that are being tested now in ways to explore the power of their own mind, that might have a mind that feels like a pinball machine right now. What are a couple of things that you can say? Investing in your mind's been something you say quite often that you never needed to be sick to get better. What are some things that you could suggest before we turn it back over to DJ about our minds and how we can learn how to make a deeper commitment in the same way maybe we commit to more physical or tangible things like clothing or cars, things of that nature?
I think that's a great question, Trev. I think first of all is that for any business out there right now, for any family, for any individual, man or woman, a boy or girl, is the one thing that we can control is how we think, what we're thinking about, and how we say the things that we're thinking about, and that's what you can control. Because we can't control how long this COVID-19 thing's going to last. Unfortunately, I wish I could. If I could control it, I'd go win the game right now for us if I could, but I can't. But what I can control is how I lead my family, how I lead my coworkers, what I say, how I speak, letting them know there are realities, but also letting them know that the reality is we're going to get to the other side, and here's
Love it.
how, and here's what we're going to do, and this is
Yep.
what we got to do together, and this is how we got to team up, and this is how we got to be creative, and I think that's really important as a family. Every kid has chores right now. We're making sure everybody does their duties and everything else, and making sure that we have all our assignments and we try to hit those things. And the kids are still in school and still teaching them what they need to learn because the reality is that they're probably not going to go back to school this year. So how do we make sure future's still learning, Sienna's still learning, like all those realities of what all of America is facing right now, and really honestly the world, is that we have to adjust. And so the one thing that we can control is how we think, and we have to train our minds because this is a tough thing to go through. When you lose somebody, when somebody gets sick, or when money's an issue, or when real relationships, like how we think, what we think about ourselves, what we think about others, how we think about it, how we display that language. I mean, I would say in relationships, if I were to, with me and C, if I don't speak the right way, if we have an argument about something, let's just say, for example, or something, we differ on an opinion. Well, it's really important for me as a leader to make sure that I lead with the right language to understand what she needs, what she wants, what our desires are to make sure this thing happens the way that we want to, or whatever it may be. And how do you work together? And I think that's really critical in this time. Is don't work alone. Don't work alone. Work together. Have the right mindset. Have a neutral mind. And that's all the things we talk about with Limitless Minds. And I think if you guys want to learn more about what we're doing and how we're doing it, Limitless Minds, it's a company that Trevor, as you see right there, Trevor, my main man. I've been with him for 10 plus years. Trevor, my brother Harry. Harrison's I call him Harry, but we've been together for a long, long time. Never saw a young kid, 31 years we've been together, and he taught me a lot about mindset. Consciously and subconsciously. I think the same thing. DJ, our other business partner, Harry and DJ are best friends, and they've been business partners for a long time together. And so we've been fortunate to form this company by working with a lot of different people, a lot of different organizations, some of the best organizations, companies in the world, but also some of the best players, but also too as well with the everyday. How do I do this? How do I do? When I go to see our children, it's real life. It's real life. It's real life issues, real life things.
Very
And like I
practical.
said to you guys, being neutral, having joy, having gratitude, but that neutral mindset being at the center of it all is the number one key, I think, to overcoming. And we were able to teach that with Leveless Minds. It's been fun. It's been a joyride with Trevor, working with you, obviously, on this whole process. I wouldn't even call it a business. It's a joy. It's a joy to
Yeah.
It's just a joy to be
It's a
able to speak
team.
what we know, and what we've been able to do together, and the people that we've
Yeah.
been able to impact and inspire. It's all about impacting, inspiring, and serving. And so, if we can continue to do that with Limitless Minds, and we've been fortunate to work with some of the best companies in the world, and continue that. But it's really not about the company name. It's about the employees. It's about everybody because the reality is this. It's a snowball. This is the last thing I'll say. I know I'm rambling here, but the reality is
Love it,
that
Russ.
if you work with one of the best companies in the world, let's just say they have 10,000 employees, or let's just say 10,000 employees. If they have 10,000 employees, well, it's not about the CEO. It is, but it's not about the CEO. It's about the 10,000. Because if we can impact the 10,000 with Limitless Minds, right? That 10,000, the most important thing that they can do is take it home to their family, right? And let's say that 10,000, let's say 5,000 of those people have kids. Let's just say they have a family of 4. Well, multiply those numbers. And now we're really impacting, and now we're really influencing. And
Right.
that's the snowball effect. That's the magic that we've been able to create with Limitless Minds, and we want to continue to do, even in the midst of the storm right now. And then when we get to the other side, like Mark 5:1 says, when we get to the other side, right, then how far can we really go? And I think that's the great thing, and hopefully we can continue to do that. And we're excited about that with Limitless Minds, and just be able to work with amazing people, and hopefully, everybody in the world, and really just be able to teach that and show that and demonstrate that and give people, some tangible steps to go home with, because we can overthink things and this and that.
Yep.
Simple wins. And if we can take that home to our families, those 10,000 employees, and really those 10,000 employees take it to their family members and their cousins and their friends, and now we've got something amazing. So let's keep that going.
Well, I want to thank you, Russell, for making time. I know between school and between knowing you for a long time, your off season is not an off season. Whether you're more busy now than you are ever. So it means a lot, for us as business, family members, all sorts of different types of things. But thank you, DJ. We're going to head back to you. And turn it back over. So thanks for everybody for joining the live webinar with Russell Wilson, with myself, Trevor, Moawad, Harrison, and DJ. Go to www.thinkbig-gofar.com. You can follow us at thinkbig-gofar. You can follow Dangerous Wilson at West to East Empire, and at Trevor Moawad. So we're excited. We're putting out relevant information for you. Stay strong. And Russell will tell you the 4 words that we always end every text message with as our advice before we turn it over to DJ.
Well, I love you guys, and just the reality is the best is ahead. So keep going, ahead. Keep believing, and I'll see you guys soon. The best is ahead. Limitless Minds, partners, I love you guys. Let's keep going. Let's keep serving. Let's keep giving back. Let's keep winning. Let's win the weight. I'll see you guys.
Let's win the weight.